There's a lot of anecdotal advice around on improving your marriage. But if you want something you can really use that will actually make a difference and reignite your marriage, check out the link in the description below.
The question, have you had success with marriage counseling? I have to chuckle a little here. You know, all of those studies that you read that state 3 years after entering marriage counseling, couples are still together? Of course they are, because they're still in marriage counseling with no end in sight. The hardest thing that absolutely not be overcome is that I was trying to change my ex, and he was trying to get me to accept things about him that I couldn't and never would. The counseling resulted in short-term and temporary behavior modifications that weren't based in authenticity or an innate desire to change. I eventually got my ex to get a job. The problem, he still didn't want to work. Inevitably, he resorted back a state of joblessness, and I was left holding the financial responsibility for two. Again, before I offer up my 25 cents adjusted for inflation, I'm going to tell you one thing: if there is a big something that you don't like about your spouse or partner, that big something is never going to change. You might be able to train them to do little things, like put the toilet seat down or be on time more frequently, but if it's a behavior that affects you materially, give up the dream. My advice to anyone even contemplating couples counseling is to set a time limit on it, 6 months tops. And be upfront about that with your counselor, because this gets expensive. I think we paid $200 a session. Remember, marriage counselors are like online dating sites. They lose revenue when you no longer need their services, so many will keep you on the books indefinitely by trying to sort out unsortable problems. Choose a secular counselor. This will minimize your chances of getting caught up in the never-ending counseling loop. Faith-based counselors have one goal: to keep you together at all costs, regardless of the quality of the marriage. Barring serious abuse, of course. Anything else goes. Because, God. EOS. My ex and I got horrific advice from a faith-based counselor, who told us that we should have a child to keep the marriage together. My jaw almost dropped. A secular counselor is not going to give you shitty advice, and is far more likely to give you frank advice. I might also advise you to, as a better option, receive individual counseling first to see if it's even worth it. Again, secular. What you need as an individual matters far more than what you want as a couple. After 4 years of doling out money to marriage counselors, I went into individual counseling and was able to get a more objective response to my needs. I was also able to get a divorce. Hope this helps anyone reading this. Everyone has had rocky patches. The difference between it being a patch and a drop of a cliff is what you do now. Check the link in the description if you want a helping hand.